Hello there and welcome back to this F1 2020 My Team career mode with the midfield runners, that is Minardi, and we're now at the Ardennes Forest at the fantastic Spa-Francorchamps circuit for round 11 of 16 here at Belgium. In the workstation, and before FP1 we'll have a look at the weather. FP2 and FP3 is going to be wet. For how long, I don't know. We won't know until we get to the session. Qualifying in the race is going to be overcast, so it looks like most of the stuff will have to be done in FP1. So then, messages, weekend preview, weather forecast. There's going to be a little bit of rain towards the end of the race. That could spice things up just a little bit, but qualifying is going to remain dry, if a little overcast. Development update, we'll have a look at in a minute. Next year's regulations. Right, Alex, Nick, some important information for you two. It looks like we're probably going to have some regulation changes next year. We think this will affect multiple departments, but we aren't sure which ones. Be cautious when it comes to investing in upgrades, as we may have to start adapting them for next year if and when these changes are confirmed. Development update as well with the recent powertrain update that we've had on the car from Mercedes. So we've already got 1,429 resource points. We have a couple of minor upgrades coming in for the powertrain department. If they pass, great. If they fail, we'll get them redone at a cost, as a discount cost, and then we'll pretty much save up our resource points from here until the end of the season to get everything legalised if anything does change, and then obviously have a bit of a pre-season boost going into season number 3. So in the rivalry with Carlos Sainz, we're 4 ahead with 2 race weekends remaining. I've won 1 of my 3 rivalries. He's won 2 of his. Driver details for us. Total points in our career mode, 71. We've had 1 podium finish at France. We've had a fastest lap as well. Average finish, still P12. Average grid, still P16. Over 4,500 miles driven in our career mode. So then, the performance side of things. At the end of the last episode, we obviously went through quite a few weeks before the end of season break. The 2 major upgrades for the rotor speed and the fuel flow regulator passed first time, as did the lightweight pistons, which was an upgrade for Mercedes. That came in straight away. And the aerodynamic upgrade over here, the minor one for the refined straight positions, also came in at the first time of asking. So we currently have 2 minor upgrades, which will hopefully arrive between Belgium and Italy, currently penciled in onto the car. Nothing else is being done at the moment. There you can see there, both the 2nd of September for the 2 minor upgrades. As for progress history between Silverstone and here, Mercedes have had a big leap forward, so they're pulling themselves further and further away from the other cars. Red Bull have overtaken Ferrari. Looks like Renault and McLaren are now level with AlphaTauri. Racing Point ourselves have made a big jump up with our 2 major and 2 minor upgrades, so we're now right up behind Racing Point and AlphaTauri. A little bit of a gap between ourselves and Alfa Romeo, despite the fact they've had a little increase. Same for Haas, and Williams have had a very small increase, but the gap between Haas and Williams is quite massive. So comfortably inside the midfield now. Hopefully that these recent upgrades will perform a little bit of magic and wonder on the circuit, and we can have a nice competitive weekend at Belgium. So then, as you can see here, we're on to units number 3 that we was using at the end of the British Grand Prix. We'll make the change onto units number 1 and 2 for the practice sessions. Gearbox, 14% on the practice gearbox, that's fine for now. Event gearbox now up to 23. And we've only got 2 race weekends remaining with that, so that's fine. The weekend tyre allocation, again, I've gone balanced to allow myself 2 sets of medium tyres in the race if we need it. And the standings as it stands at the moment, 11th place outside of the top 10 now, thanks to a couple of people behind us picking up good points and jumping ahead of us. But still 7th place for the moment in the Constructors. But sooner rather than later, McLaren will catch and pass. So season results, as you can see, there 11th last time out at Silverstone. A very challenging 11th place it was as well. And the trophies as well. Still the 3rd place trophy we picked up at France. So I'll go away now and do all 3 practice sessions off camera and give you an update once all these are done. So here we are then at the end of FP3. FP2 and FP3 were in rain conditions. FP2 was fully wet, so we didn't run. FP3 was intermediate, so I went out with 10 minutes to go to put a few laps in, because at the very end of the race it's going to be a little bit wet, so I wanted to get my eye in a little bit to see how we were. Unfortunately, we're not very good. As for FP1, again, like Silverstone, we're off the pace. I'm struggling to work out why. We ended up doing a multitude of different practice programs. We did them all apart from the qualifying one, done them all in purple. That was good. But we were down in 21st place after we'd done a couple of stints in the hard tyres, improved to 19th place when we went onto the mediums, and then we were meant to change onto the soft tyres to do the race strategy programme. We could only do 16th, and we was the only car to post a lap time on the soft tyres, and we ended it in 16th. I would have been expecting a little bit higher. And you can see here in the classifications for FP3, everyone, of course, on the intermediate tyres. And you see Nick de Vries, it was only a couple of tenths away from Vettel, up in 11th place, and he's looked very strong all weekend. But we're down in P21, half a second away from George Russell. Probably needed a bit more time out on track, only did 3 laps. The first one was very tentative, as you can imagine, around a circuit like this. So I'm not too sure. I mean, in the dry, we were a little slow in sector 1. It's because I'm running slightly higher wings, and sector 1 is pretty much the last Ross hairpin and then just a long straight with the flat out Eau Rouge in between. So we'll be down on pace for that because obviously we're running slightly higher wings. But I thought I'd be able to claw it back in sector 2 and sector 3. Especially sector 2 with a lot of fast flowing corners. You need a bit of downforce there to keep the grip and keep the speed high, but we weren't. We're sort of the same as the people around us, and yeah, to end up in 16th in FP1 on the soft tyres and everyone else is on the mediums and hards, it's a bit disconcerting really. So I'm hoping that we can find a bit more pace going into qualifying, but we've managed to get a lot of practice programs done, loads of resource points. We've had no incidents at all out there on circuit. We're just unfortunately just a little bit slow. So the resource point, 662 from me, 258 from Nick de Vries. I think it's about another 900, 23.49 now, so that's good, especially with the recent rule changes are going to be here in the next couple of races. 52% combined for the team, which is pretty much the same as it has been going forward. I don't know if we'll hit level 15 at the end of the season. I think at the end of the season we all get a bigger boost on the acclaim, so it might put us into level 15. If it does that, we should be able to get the last of our driver perks as well. But we're creeping up now on level 19 for the team's overall acclaim. So we're back at the workstation, and before qualifying, the message is there, some information about the circuit, participation. That was for FP2 because we didn't run in it. And if you obviously at the beginning of the episode said next year's regulations are just around the corner, development upgrade, weather forecast, you can see it's going to be overcast with a little bit of sun in qualifying. In the race, it's going to sort of go backwards. It's going to start off overcast, and it's going to get a lot darker, and then you've got that little bit of a rain shower towards the end. Could make things very interesting, because if it arrives with 4 or 5 laps to go, you might need to make a change onto intermediate tyres. It's a very long lap here, around about 2 minutes in wet conditions, so you want to make sure that if you have to change tyres, that you have to do it at the right time, or you will lose a lot of track position. So we already made a change onto units number 3, which are very close actually to being level with units number 2. You can see there we're only 21 laps away from most of these units. I think pretty much it is 206 and 185 and the lap count it is. So once qualifying the race is done, technically units number 2 will be slightly better than units number 3. Just how long we've run them for, basically. Yeah, so I think we might have to order units number 4 just to get us to the end of the season, but these are still in the, the 40s, the 20s and 30s, I should say. They don't really start struggling until they're in the 40s and 50s. But I think we might need to take another hit before the end of the season. Still 4 races to go after this weekend. So we'll go to qualifying. I'm not going to set the bar too high. Ideally, I'd like to be ahead of both the Williams and Haas cars. And as you can see, with the recent upgrades that we've had onto the car, we should be well clear of Alfa Romeo as well, and nipping at the heels of the proper midfield teams, Racing Point, AlphaTauri, McLaren and Renault. But with the lack of pace we're showing around here, like Silverstone as well in the previous episode, I think I'll be just happy to beat both the Haas and Williams cars. As for Nick de Vries, I'll be expecting him to do a little bit better. So we'll go to qualifying and see if we can do that. So then we're in the garage nice and early, no cars out on circuit just yet, and I can hear no engines whirring into life around me. We've gone for the balance setup, which I'll probably be doing from now on actually, because it does give better strategy options. If it was a fully dry race, I'd probably be looking at either softs onto hards, or maybe softs onto mediums if I could make it. So those are the 3 tyres over here that are blacked out ready for the race. They'll be fresh, that's fine. But with the rain coming in at the end of the race, I'm thinking maybe softs onto mediums, because there's no way we're going to be inside the top 10. So we can afford to do 3 runs in qualifying. We should be able to do 2, maybe 3. It's a long lap here. And we'll have 2 sets of mediums, a set of softs and a set of hards going into the race. So the car setup then, before we go out on track, drain the fuel out a little bit. Aerodynamics 6.7, so I'm running slightly higher on the for the straights. which is hurting us in Sector 1 and a little bit in Sector 3 because Blanchimont is a very, very flat out long left hand corner, but we're pretty good in Sector 2. I'm going to stick with this setup because I do feel comfortable on it if we are just a little slow. Transmission 60-60, suspension geometry to the right and left for camber and toe, suspension 5-4, 6-5, 6-7, fairly high ride height around here because Belgium is a very undulating circuit. You're constantly moving up and down. Certainly Eau Rouge is a big old climb up the hill. Brakes 153, tyres 1 click down for all 4 of the pressures. A few cars now out on circuit. Vettel is leading the way, so we might as well join them out there on the circuit. Park firmware regulations now into effect. So the target for this really is P18. Try and out-qualify both the Haas cars and both the Williams cars. I mean, to be honest, if we're P18, that's fine. I'll take that. So we might be able to get past an Alfa Romeo and one of the other 2 teams gets a car past us. Yeah, for whatever reason, we just seem to be not competitive here, which is very annoying. So this is Eau Rouge, where we need all the downforce through here, really, because I feel very twitchy through here. And then up through Radion, the little kink there at the top of the hill, and then along the Kemmel straight towards Les Combes. This is pretty much all Sector 1, which is why we're slightly down on pace, because we're pretty much flat out through it. There's 2 DRS zones here along the main straight, which is very, very short from the bus stop chicane to La Source hairpin, and then along the Kemmel straight there where most of the overtaking will be done. So Les Combes is done. We're down to Rivage corner now, a very off-cambered right-hander. You want to stay away from the inside curve. Then over to the corner with no name. It literally has no name. We'll allow this Mercedes through. And now down to the utterly fantastic double left-hander of Pouon. Probably going to be flat. Maybe a little lift in qualifying. We've got the McLaren behind us. Ooh, I've got in his way a little bit. I apologise, Norris. Well, he's on an out lap anyway because his rear light is flashing, so he's not using ERS. Now up to Malmedy. Right-hander, you can drag the car right here. Curve pour frere will be easy flat. And now onto the very long curving back straight of Blanchimont. I think that's my teammate behind me, so we'll jump out of Nick de Vries's way. And away he goes. And then after this we've got the bus stop chicane, where you've got to get the braking right for that. Very understeery and oversteery, that little chicane, which has been remodified several times over the past 20 odd years. And when you're coming up to a fast lap here, you want to run wide, up to third, and then straighten up the car and exit, just to give yourself a little bit more. So, there's a lap of Belgium. Let's see what we do first time. I'm hoping this will be a good lap. We're ahead of De Vries and Grosjean. And it'll be interesting to see what our Sector 1 time was like, because Hamilton came out the pits just in front of me and gave me a lovely tow all the way along the Kemmel straight. And then De Vries gave us a nice little one as well along Blanchimont. So I'm hoping that the rest of the lap was pretty nailed on. We're already ahead of De Vries and Grosjean. Not everyone's set a lap time yet. Yeah, Hamilton certainly saved us a few tenths there coming along the Kemmel straight. So we'll have a slow tour back to the pits. We're almost out of fuel anyway. And we'll see what our first lap does. Okay, I've done a boo-boo. There were 7 minutes left of the session when I came back to the garage. I looked away to check something on my phone, and I think I don't have enough time to do a second run. Oh, it's going to be so tight. We might just be able to do it. We're going to have to give it to B's, unfortunately. But you can see it on the left-hand side. We are in P16. So, yeah, that tow certainly helped. I did look at the sector times. We're pretty good in Sector 2 and a little bit in Sector 3, but we did get a little bit of help from Nick de Vries. Sector 1, we are still quite slow, but we wouldn't have been... we would have been a lot slower if it wasn't for Hamilton giving us a nice little tow. And the problem I have at the moment is we really do have to push, but I've also got to try and save these tyres as best as I can. I don't think we're going to... I think if we manage to get across the line, I think these tyres might already be past their best. We'll allow Hamilton through. We'll follow him around because he's on a fast lap. I don't know if we're going to do it. I got distracted, looked at my phone. Any other circuit we probably would have been okay, but Belgium being the longest one on the calendar, I believe, this season for us. 30 seconds left.
30 seconds left in the session.
Oh, this is going to be so close, isn't it? Still in P16 for now. I think we might drop down a little bit. The Williams cars are well over a second slower than us. Everyone else behind is only a few tenths back. I think we'll just do it. Here we go then. 2 seconds left. Nearly half a second up, so we have found some time. Don't know where it's going to put us. We were certainly the last car across the line. It says P16 for now. Looks like we remain in P16. So yeah, we made it with 2 seconds to go to get across the line. We was only a tenth and a half down at the end of sector 1, and I was looking at the delta time slowly increasing as we were going down the Kemmel Straight. And to be completely honest with you, it didn't like shoot up that much, only a couple of hundredths. So the tow we got from Hamilton wasn't as great as I thought it was in the first place, but we certainly made a bit of time in sector 2 and especially in sector 3. So Hamilton takes pole then, nearly 3 tenths ahead of Bottas. Ferrari line up on row 2, Leclerc ahead of Vettel, and Renault line up on row 3 with Ocon ahead of Ricciardo. And it's both the Red Bulls as well. So 4 teams inside the top 8. Albon, who's having a really poor season, in 7th ahead of Verstappen. And then it's Norris and Gasly complete the top 10. Then it's Sainz, Perez, Kvyat, Stroll, Raikkonen, ourselves in 16th, ahead of Giovinazzi, Nick De Vries a few tenths back in 18th. And then it's Magnussen, Grosjean, and then further back Russell and Latifi. P16 then, slightly better than what I would have expected from us, so I'll take it going into the race. So the rivalry breakdown, Carlos Sainz out-qualified us, so he would have gained an extra point on us. So it's now 19 to 16. 2 race weekends remaining, including the one we're currently competing, so it could be very, very close. Team McLaren 28, 24, 52 combined. So again, pretty much same old as we've seen in the last few races. So then back in the workstation, and before we go to the track for the race, message Jeff from the pre-race notes. The weather hasn't changed. We are expecting that rain shower towards the very end. I'm not surprised that there's changeable conditions at Spa. It usually is most years going forward. As for the units, obviously we'll carry units number 3, but I think once this race is going to be done with, they're pretty much going to be level. I think it's a 22 lap race, and we're 26 laps behind, overtaking units number 2. So pretty much these are going to be even afterwards, which could help us towards the end of the season. But like I said earlier, I think we'll have to take another good penalty at some point just to make sure we have nice and healthy units to get to the end. So nothing else left to do, so we'll go to the track. 22 laps of this fantastic Spa circuit to look forward to. We'll have a look at the introduction to the circuit, the grid formation as well, and then the all-important race strategy.
We're in Belgium once again for today's round of the Formula 1 World Championship. It's a race the great Ayrton Senna won 6 times, and in 2019 Charles Leclerc became the first driver to take their maiden win here since Michael Schumacher in 1992. Spa-Francorchamps today, a circuit that spans 4.35 miles. There are tons of elevation changes along the way too. 19 corners making up this circuit, with 9 of those to the right and the remaining 10 to the left. This track is a great one for fans of pure speed. The average lap speed comes close to a whopping 145 miles an hour. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Esteban Ocon, and Ricciardo, Albon, Verstappen, Norris, and Pierre Gasly, Sainz, Perez, Daniel Kvyat, and Stroll, Raikkonen, Lee, Nick de Vries, and Kevin Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell, Latifi, and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So, round 11 of 16, only Giovinazzi has a grid penalty. There might be a few more towards the end of the season, but now in Season 2, most of the teams have probably done enough on the durability department to make sure that they don't have to keep taking penalties for the last few races. He starts at the back. We remain in P16. So the race strategy, softs onto mediums. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. 23 laps is 23.1 is the minimum I can do. We did the race strategy, you see, so it's obviously given me a different fuel load, which is not ideal, but that's fine. We'll start with 1 lap's worth of extra fuel. Softs onto mediums is definitely the strategy I was going to plan on, because I'm thinking about that rain towards the end. So we'll start the race and we'll start the formation lap. So we've got our teammate, both the Haas cars, both the Williams and Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo behind us. Nice slow pull away.
Okay, our system checks are good. We need to stay in formation and start bringing the car up to temperature, please. Get some load into the tyres and work the brakes. We want them nice and warm by the end of the lap.
Indeed, but I want to keep the tyre wear down a little bit. I have to kind of be a little cautious. Softs onto mediums should be okay for us. I don't know if it's going to be okay for the top 10, because they'll be starting on a U set of soft tyres. So some of them might have to do softs onto hards. We'll have to wait and see how this race plays out. We'll have to see when the rain arrives as well. It says it's going to be wet towards the end of the race, but it could arrive something like lap 14 or 13, something like that, but not get wet enough for the intermediates till about lap 17 or 18. Or it could start raining at lap 18 and then stay just about dry enough so we can get round on the medium tyres, or we might have to stop with a lap or 2 to go. Like I said, this is a very long lap here, even longer when the track is wet. It's a 2-minute lap basically when the track is wet here, give or take a second or 2, but basically it's 2 minutes. And yeah, so if you get caught out, you'll be losing a lot of time and possibly a points position depending on how this race goes. Could be a safety car, a virtual safety car out there as well. There's a lot of variables coming into this race. So I don't want to push too much on these soft tyres. Unless there's an early safety car, then maybe we'll pit and come back out on a set of hards or something to get us to the rain. I don't know. We'll just have to see how this race develops as it goes on. But starting from P16 is not too bad really. Don't think I would have been up, you know, P12, 13, 14, that sort of thing anyway, even with the sort of the talent deficit I'm showing here. And it's been confusing because Silverstone was a race I was expected to have gone well with the updates, certainly here as well with the bigger updates that we've had, and we haven't really seemed to make any sort of inroads. But maybe it could just be track specific and setup specific for me, who knows. So the AI now takes control of my car. A clean start is crucial. Try and gain a few positions if we can. We're starting on the outside for turn 1. Just have to see how that develops for us down into La Source. Lights coming on now then. Here at Belgium. Not a bad start. Absolutely sent it into turn 1. And I've got a McLaren on me. Absolutely, so I didn't really go that deep into it. I'm going to get absolutely hounded here along the Kemmel Straight though because of it. I don't know where I'm supposed to position my car. We've got yellow flags behind us. I think I'll just... Oh, safety car.
No overtaking, reduce your pace. Keep your delta number positive as we form up.
So we've got a racing point off. At Radion. So he's probably made contact and then absolutely slapped it into the wall. And we have a safety car. So, I did say we might have one early on. We've certainly got that. So, big question here. Are the top 10 going to pit? No, they're not. Okay, interesting then. So, they're all starting on a new set of soft tyres, but they're not pitting. I don't think anyone is. Of course, what that means is they can all now do softs onto mediums as well. So this is going to come down to pure pace, and we know we haven't got it.
There is no overtaking until the green flags. Safety car in this lap.
There you go then. Safety car's coming in. You can actually start racing at the beginning of lap 4. When is Hamilton going to drop the hammer? Looks like he's going now. And we go back to green flag racing then in P8.
We're leading our teammate by 2.8 seconds.
Nothing I can really do. We were massively out of position with that great dive into turn 1 at the start. All we can do is run our own race really.
Take and burn some of this energy.
Even at this stage, I think points is highly unlikely. What we can just try and do is have a competitive finish. I will push. I will try and defend if I need to. Here comes Verstappen. Again, nothing I can do. Yeah, so that happened. I thought I'd show the cinematic side of it. Yeah, basically Verstappen got passes coming into Lake On. And then with the dirty air from him in front of me, I just dragged it a bit too wide for the right hander, went through the gravel, tried to correct it, and as soon as I was in the gravel, as soon as all 4 wheels was in the gravel, that was it, the car was gone. It spun across the circuit. I tried to slam on the brakes, but the car pitched back onto the circuit, and we got clattered by an AlphaTauri and a racing point, ripped off the front half of the car and put us in the wall and out of the race. It's I think the cinematic side of it is quite cool, because if you get a good shot of it, you can really see the carnage and destruction that gets done. Not that I want to be doing it too often, and it's a shame because that's our first retirement of the season, and therefore probably going to be a bit of a short episode, should I say. But yeah, it was just it was a driving error by myself. I am aware that when I'm behind a car quite closely, as you can see in the cinematic, I was still right up behind Verstappen. The dirty air just puts a load of understeer onto the front. You just lose the front downforce completely, and I should have known that, and I did know that, and I still pushed the car like there wasn't one in front of me, and that was unfortunately the end result. Bit of a silly accident, and unfortunately it's our first retirement of the season. So Hamilton wins, Bottas second, Vettel in third, Ricciardo and Ocon managed to get past Leclerc, Verstappen, Albon 7th and 8th, Sainz and Norris complete the top 10 minutes. Kvyat, who had a 5-second penalty, Nick de Vries in 12th place, and then Giovinazzi, Gasly, Perez, Raikkonen, Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell, Latifi, ourselves and Lance Stroll were the only retirements in that race. So the standings then, see what's happened. Bottas still leads 16 points ahead of Vettel. Hamilton slowly starting to creep back, but he really needs to start winning all of the remaining races if he wants to win this title Leclerc, good in 4th, Verstappen in 5th. Stroll 6th. Ricciardo moves up ahead of Kvyat into 7th. Ocon moves up ahead of quite a few of us up into 9th, pushing us down into P12. Nick de Vries still remains in 15th, and Albon in 14th place. Alexander Albon in a Red Bull in P14. That is not good for him. So in the constructors, a few changes. Red Bull jump up ahead of both Renault and Racing Point into 3rd. Renault move up into 4th. McLaren finally managed to jump ahead of us, pushing us down into P8, but we're comfortably ahead of the 3 cars behind us. So I think unless McLaren completely fall off the bridge in the next few races and we get some strong results, we've got some good races coming up, don't get me wrong, I think P8 is going to be us at the end. So the rivalry of Carlos Sainz has really stung us then with that DNF, and he now takes the lead with just 1 race weekend remaining, so not good there for us. As for the acclaim, 28, 24, 52 combined. Surprised mine's still 28%, despite the fact that I did slap it into the wall. And finally the cash, yeah, quite bad actually, because obviously I retired very early on. And damage deductions as well for destroying the front of the car. So not good for cash. Only gained $400,000 when it's usually over $1 million. So then we can renew a sponsorship with Satellite, which is what we'll do. So we'll completely renew with them straight away. We've only got a few days in before we go to Italy. So the second is these 2 minor upgrades, which hopefully will come onto the car. We have to measure their performance comparison. We know where we stand with everyone. Activities. We've got a sponsor event filming. We can improve the team acclaim by 200, costs us $5,000. A durability team building or reaction training awareness, which we know already Nick de Vries' awareness stat is pretty nuts, so we might as well make it even better. We haven't got enough money to do anything over here, and I want to kind of save the resource points at the moment just in case these 2 parts fail. Everything else pretty much fine. We've re-signed with Satellite, so that's okay. And the units are 10 laps short, because obviously we retired. It was going to be a bit higher, but units 2 and 3 pretty much the same. So we'll advance the time a few days. Hopefully these 2 upgrades come in, and they do at the first time of asking, so that's really, really good. The tyre allocation will go with balanced, and we might as well have a quick look at the contract then with Nick de Vries. So his awareness stat has gone up by 12 so far this season. 85 awareness now. That's probably one of the best in the field, to be completely honest with you. His experience still lacking a little bit, but his pace nearly in the 80s. Racecraft 74 as well. So yeah, we'll continue to chip away at Nick de Vries. He's certainly been getting the better as the season has gone on. As for finances, made a little bit of profit there after the race. Nothing else we really need to look at. So we can advance then to Italy, where we might find out before FP1 what the rule changes are going to be for next season. And we'll have a look at the R&D screen as well of our recent little upgrades we've had, and hopefully look forward to racing around the Temple of Speed, Minardi's home event as well. So thank you very much for watching this disappointing episode, but I'll see you for the next one very soon.